All right, so my topic discussion for my presentation was, is the workers' union a relevant and effective tool for the working class America? So the history of the workers' unions, they began during the Industrial Revolution, and at that point it was very important because workers were going into steel mills and all these big factories. Everything was getting bigger and better, except they were going in and working under terrible conditions with very little pay. Sorry guys, I'm on my throat. And that's when the union, as we know today, started. One criticism new social historians leveled against Alfred Chandler's, who was an author in the early 1900s, was his treatment of managerial revolution, is that it left the workers out. And what they mean by this is that in history, there's a saying that history is how it was written. And what people were saying was that history was being written in favor of the companies and never the workers, and that's what unions fought against. They fought for the workers. That's what's called the workers' union. Next, government actions. So it works in a trifecta with the union, the company, and the government. It ends up being a union versus company dynamic, with the government kind of interceding and using that third party mediator. Right now, we have HR 1129 and HR 2103. 1129 is Union Transparency and Accountability Act, and this is coming from the right side, the Republicans. The left side has 2103, which is the Tax Fairness for Workers Act, coming from the left. And you can really see this dynamic where the right side has that classic, we're thinking about the company, we're thinking about the money, economic kind of mindset. And the Democrats are very progressive, thinking about the workers. And neither good or bad. We need both dynamics, which is why our country is so great. It has that right and left side, and that back and forth. And government actions coming from unions has been very important, because that's when we started getting different departments to make sure we were working under healthy conditions. There wasn't toxic fumes in the air. We have that minimum wage. Now we have, and it's national and state minimum wages, so unions have fought for both sides depending on the state you live in. Some states have the national minimum wage as theirs, and where I'm at in Washington, come January, where it's going to be $15 an hour, which is, I believe national is about $8, so it's a significant difference. Next, to answer the question, it really depends. A union would say that they are relevant and they do help the working class American, whereas a company would say they're almost irrelevant. They don't want unions. The unionization of their workers is, like I said earlier, it's a us versus them mentality, and it ends up being this attack against each other. A 2013 study had union wages at $18.36 plus extra benefits, whereas non-union wages were $14.81 an hour. And this is where the union would say, hey, we do help. We increased the wages by almost $3.50 per worker, and that's because they have someone fighting for them. It's a collective group. The Bible says two are stronger than one, and three friends is not easily broken. And imagine a huge union working together for a common cause. That's why they are able to make that significant wage difference. However, this wage difference might be at the threat or at the expense of non-unionized workers. They don't have that big group fighting for them, so it almost pushes them to have to be in a union, or it pushes them to have to live under different wages. But then on the flip side, if they do join the union, you make more money, but you have extra taxes, extra union dues. You have to pay those representatives to fight for you. They have the lawyers to back them up. That's why they have the big wages. So you have these extra dues, so it might even out, not even really be worth it. But my personal opinion is that unions have recently been less about defense and more about attack. It is that us versus them mentality, which is not what we really want in America, and that's really what we're moving towards, is a right versus left, and not right working with left side, not company working with the unions. It's us versus them. And nowadays, I've had people come up to me and be like, hey, you should join this company because we have a union. And you don't really have to do much. And they're using their union as a scapegoat to not do their job. In order to, I mean, that's why we have construction going on a block for 3 months when it could have been done. I'm sure there's other reasons and there's outside circumstances, but you see, it's that classic, you see a construction worker standing around doing nothing kind of deal. And it's abuse right now. It's not, nobody's living or working in toxic fumes in America. China, they need unions. Oh goodness, China's rough over there. They need that unionization, but we're not living under the conditions of the Industrial Revolution anymore. And as I spoke earlier, the union dues sometimes outweigh the gain that you get. Going into the biblical perspective, Matthew 5:29 says, it's Jesus speaking. He says, "But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also." In 1 Corinthians 13 is the chapter of love, and it says, love is patient, love is kind, and then it keeps going for the whole chapter. But I really wanted to focus on that. Love is patient, love is kind, because it shows that you need to be patient and work with the company. As a union member, you need to work with the company, and you need to work with the union. If you're part of the company, if you're that CEO, you need to respect each other. That's really all it comes down to. As a Christian, you need to respect people. You need to respect your authority, but you also need to respect those who are below you and beside you. Jesus came to serve and not to be served. Even if you're the boss, even if you're the servant, it's about respect, and it's about love. It's about being patient and being kind. And the Bible's all about God's love from us, from Him to us, and us to each other. And then this is my bibliography, the 2 bills right there, and then that quote I used on one of the earlier slides. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, maybe even learned something.